Welcome to Off Topic, where we get off topic more than my ADHD goes on a burr. So, today we're going to be talking about how D&D would affect our modern world if it all suddenly became D&D. How would it work? How would it affect us and our current world?
Question.
Yes.
Would everything work on a D20 kind of thing? Like, everything you do has like a 1/20th chance of either going really well or really bad?
No, so it's gonna be more like if the world of D&D, so like the Forgotten Realms and all that stuff, as if we were just a part of it. So like magic, different races, all that stuff, classes, but not like the dice rolling.
I
Okay, so
see.
more the world than the mechanics of D&D.
Yeah, more like the abilities, races, classes, powers,
Right.
all that stuff.
Okay.
The mechanics of D&D being applied to the real world would be like a whole separate conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole dice world is a lot different conversation and a whole
I mean,
different
imagine
topic.
going into an interview and it's like, well, you roll the dice, and if you roll above 11, you get the job. Like, I feel like everyone would just be a lot braver at that point. Because, like,
The
why not
game
do
luck,
things?
but also like your ability points, increasing score and all. Yeah, that's a whole different
Yeah, whole
podcast we can
separate.
do though. For today, let's focus on if our world suddenly became the D&D world. Like suddenly, people's races are changed. They have classes for some of them. Some people have access to magic, world-bending magic, like Wish. That's gonna be a
If that happened immediately, just randomly happened, chaos would ensue. But
Yes.
I'm assuming there would be order eventually. I don't know how long that would take, but it would take.
or like how many people would die. Because considering like
Yeah.
that means just a bunch of prisoners somewhere might have gotten magic abilities, like
Yeah.
fireball.
Well, and then there's the whole
I think
question of, is this something that, are we talking if it was just like snap, suddenly everything is D&D, or are we talking like it's been D&D and we're just discussing how it would function that way, or does it slowly become D&D stuff?
Well, all those are interesting. I'm more of along the lines of snap. It's suddenly all D&D.
Yeah, because as
I
Cos
feel
in
like
that case, as Cosmo said, that would be massive chaos would ensue from that.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think of it, I feel like if that happened, everyone would start at level 1, right? So like you wouldn't have immediately
Ooh.
a
But
level
you would
9.
have stuff like Mage Hand, which
Yeah,
kind of
it's fine.
instantly frees.
Level 1 definitely
Yeah,
starts
not
things
as
off going kind of crazy, but
gaining wish ability.
yeah, you're not
but
going to
that
have like
also
any
means like
straight up psychopaths being able to cast fireball like off the bat.
But also considering like that means that there's a bunch of monsters, dungeons, and other stuff suddenly in our world too. So items that could give you shit like Wish does exist.
Yes,
Oh my
all of a
gosh.
sudden the entire
Everyone
realm
becomes
is
level
different.
1. Everyone becomes a
Not like
level
the
1
sort of
fighter,
stuff
wizard,
it
whatever.
just adds
Students try to go to
on.
class and get stuck. And, like
So
a
not just like the people are affected,
dungeon.
but like dungeons appear, monsters appear, all kinds of things. It doesn't change like the structure of the world too much, besides the dungeons, which are going to be interesting. But honestly, I see that more of as affecting already their structures, like the catacombs in France. That might become a dungeon of like some kind of undead lich.
Yeah,
Museums would become
Forests just
full
become
of
dungeoneers.
Museums are like the artificer's dream. But yeah, it'd definitely be chaos. Even with just like level 1 characters, there's a lot of shit that goes down.
yeah.
And also, like, we'd
I mean,
have to
immediately have
consider,
the people.
would your stats change to adjust to your new character in a way?
I don't.
I feel like-
I think you'd keep your stats.
But
Yeah, I
especially
feel like
because, like,
stats are what would determine what you got. Like, you might have a WWE fighter who gets barbarian because they've got like super strong strength or whatever. And so like
I think it's
suddenly
completely random,
stats would
personally. Imagine a WWE fighter becoming a wizard suddenly.
well maybe I mean if they have like a high enough I don't what's a
Be goofy
shoot,
too.
I don't
It
remember.
doesn't matter the stats. It's random what
No, I
class.
know, but like I kind of feel like it would be interesting if the stats suddenly appear and now you have to like figure out what you're gonna do with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining that there's no stats per se or no
Yeah.
classes. You just kind of
Not literally, but yeah.
wizard. Learn how to be a barbarian.
But yeah, like classes and stuff, you would suddenly have a class and you'd be aware of that.
The question is, where
But
would you learn it from?
you won't learn. Oh, that's a good question.
Would
So now
books
here's
change?
where we have a choice. Do you want to talk about this in the style of a lot of comics where there's the screens, it is kind of like more like a video game in a way? Or do we want to talk about like it's real life?
I would imagine that some books would change to be like How to Wizard 101 or something.
Yeah. Or like new books would just appear in libraries and other stuff, I feel like.
Mode where you pick up random books and they just like upgrade your abilities.
I mean, there is stuff that does that.
Or maybe
And then other books just like do nothing.
Those are magic items. So there's the tombs and the magic books where it literally reading it increases your stat by 2. But then the magic is deactivated for 100 years.
Those items are
It'd be
also
such a
really
rush
rare,
to find
though.
these books.
I'm pretty sure those are artifact
Stats
level
You shouldn't
items.
say like stats or
They
anything.
are.
Because that's like to increase your
Actually, no,
strength.
they're only like very rare. They're not artifact.
I don't know about that. Because they can increase
know,
your
'cause I've
stat
used
score
them
up to 30.
before. They're actually very interesting. Tomb of Understanding. It's a wondrous item, very rare.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spend 2 days reading it, and then boom, and practicing what it says to do, and boom, you suddenly increase your stat.
How long do you think it would take for like governments to figure out what's going on?
Oh, it would take ages.
Oh,
Yeah, they'd probably
100%
try and
government.
rush to do it, but they'd probably try and rush to take control, but then again, mass panic throughout the world is going to be very difficult, especially if you consider what I'm saying is that some people might become different races. We wouldn't all stay human.
That would be funky. Because the way that I would imagine something like that working, especially since it's literally just sudden, I would imagine we would stay human, and suddenly there would be other races that would like appear, like kind of not come out of the ground literally, but like come out of hiding almost. I feel like that would flow more smoothly.
That's why I'm saying some people, like, if they do have that heritage in them, they become that race.
Yeah, I think
Like, say someone has a bit of dwarven heritage in them, they become a dwarf.
Yeah, but
What
I think
kind of
just
dwarf has
waking up one
dwarven
day and being a
heritage?
different I think just waking up one day and being a different race is like a bit far-fetched. Although everything we're talking about is a bit far-fetched.
Very
So
far-fetched.
It's just I feel like that takes almost some of the real life out of it. Like, so like if you just wake up and suddenly half the world is just different, like non-human, it's like, okay, well, what exactly is happening? I feel like it's more straightforward if we say everyone stays human, but other races are introduced to the mix. You know,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think that's just more straightforward.
I'm also saying the turning thing because our world can quite literally not take any more people. It will implode. But then
Man,
again,
if we
Exactly.
in
it
the first
could
coming
if
like
we
week,
were better at managing our resources, which we're not.
First level rangers can cast Goodberry. Actually, I don't know if that's first level. I do not
Yeah,
remember what type of spell that is. But there's
what would be the numbers? Would it be like the same amount as people are, so it would like double the population on the Earth?
in D&D, humans are the most populous race, but there would be a lot. It's about like half the world, maybe. So yeah, the population of the world would double basically.
That would be a little crazy.
But to be fair, in the first week, most people would probably die. The first few
there would be
weeks,
a lot of turnover.
Yeah,
because
it would
of
be
the
very different.
between the destruction, the sun getting of powers and chaos, and also the monsters.
I have an alternative. What about instead of everyone just randomly becoming a friggin' I don't know, tiefling or something, or like a bunch of other dwarves and stuff coming out of the ground? What if people knew the babies are like just random? Randomized.
Children are randomized.
Children get to go through character selection, the
Yeah.
whole character creation process.
I mean, actually, that's an interesting idea. Except, well, if everyone goes through character selection,
You have a
wake
dream.
up one day and it's a character sheet, and they're like, "Yo, you got to fill this out. Apply for your new form."
Yeah, you have a dream where it's like you get to select it, and then you wake up and you
you get to
are
make a
whatever.
character. And
Yeah.
Man, I
wake
had a
up after
really
that.
weird dream. Wait, what?
Yeah, I had a
Like,
weird
do you
dream.
know
I turned
how many
into
people
a.
would do it for fun and make some ridiculous shit and then wake up as that.
Then
I
you'd have the
know.
min-maxers who just wake up and suddenly they're like built different.
You've got the min-maxers who wake up and suddenly are built different, and then you have every single one of those bards that did it for the horny reasons, and all of a sudden we have a
Oh,
whole
Oh my
no.
god! Not to
ridiculous amount of
mention, like,
fuckboys running around.
oh my god, no, not just that. Like, consider like the people with fetishes. If they think it's a dream, they're gonna make a character to their fetish.
Yeah, exactly. There are a
And
lot
then
of
wake up as that.
That would be
freaky
terrifying.
characters running
Like,
It'd
around.
be
not
very
sane in your
interesting
dreams.
though, and also to be fair though, most of those people would die quite quickly.
Yeah, it'd be the
I don't know about
min-maxers
that.
who live.
I've played some joke characters who survived a really long time.
Yes, but you don't understand how extreme some people with fetishes are, and they would die instantly. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, I guess I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Being immobile is kind of difficult to survive as.
Yeah.
Viewers or listeners, if you know what I'm talking about, you know. And you know why they die quickly.
I wasn't
Every
paying
single one of those
attention.
bards who wants to go fuck a dragon.
They fucking explode.
Oh,
There would,
100%.
there
There's
would totally be a dragon in Mount Everest.
Oh, that'd be sick.
that would
Dude,
be really
imagine
cool.
like just suddenly there's a dragon of wisdom up there.
Now, a cool
Might
question
climb
would be
Mount
like,
Everest at that point.
so would we also get like other realms? Like, would we get our own edition of the Nine Hells? Our
I
own edition
don't
of the Godly Realm, the Astral Plane, and all that
Possibly.
stuff?
I don't know.
I would imagine that we would, just because it would be easier to
Mhm.
implement it. In my brain, it would be easier to implement those than it would be to
Yeah.
change the entire world at its core. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
the way that I know that we're saying that everything just changes suddenly, but again, the way that I kind of envision something like this happening would be,
Yeah, like
it would not necessarily happen slowly, but like
Mm-hmm.
there would be magic. People wouldn't discover it right off the bat because not everybody would have the training or the ability to access the
yeah.
thread or the
Yeah.
weave, or like people who
And people
are
might not even realize that much has changed unless we do the character selection thing that Cosmo said, which I kind of like the idea because it's very
I
funny.
didn't say that, but
Wait, who
it was
said that then?
I think that was my
That
joke.
might have been me.
It was me or
I
me or
think we
Isaac.
worked together in a collaborative
Yeah,
effort.
I think
Well,
we
I
kind of
love that
picked up
idea
that
because
that
it's
joke.
fucking hilarious.
But like, just the kind of the idea that magic suddenly exists, but we don't necessarily realize it right off the bat,
Uh-huh.
and so
Until someone accidentally casts a spell like Fire Breath.
yeah, until suddenly other creatures would exist in this world, but they would kind of have to come out of hiding. Like they would almost spawn like underground or in more secretive places, and they would have to come out of hiding, and suddenly magic items would exist, but they would be in more secretive places. So while it would change suddenly, people would not know for a while, and it would kind
I
of give
like
it
that
time
idea.
to turn over. And I would say
And
that
even
the other
people who
realms
figure it
would
out might not
exist.
realize what it is.
Yes, and people might not necessarily realize like right off the bat, and even for like I could see like the government hiding stuff like that for decades.
I see
Yeah.
it weak at most because it's very hard to hide things like monsters.
That is true.
Yeah.
Monsters are really good at hiding. Though.
Especially
Like,
considering
monsters wanna
the ocean
hide.
would suddenly
Dragons.
gain a lot of gigantic monsters such as krakens.
They already have those. We just like let's be real.
Yeah.
There's
The
so
fishing
much
industry
stuff going on in the
stuff.
oceans that we don't know about.
Yeah, but we would suddenly get an increase of missing ships, sudden giant storms.
Hmm.
And also, it's hard to
people
hide
Probably
a
wouldn't blink an eye.
dragon that's bigger than a mountain.
Dragons
Several
judging
dragons
that
that way.
that big.
Ancient dragons are bigger than mountains.
No, they are not.
They are.
No, it's not.
No, they are not. If you're playing
Depends
ancient
on the
dragons
problem.
that are bigger than mountains, you're doing something wrong. Or something really cool, but
Yeah, you're doing homebrew. Like,
yeah, dragons
there's
are
nothing
not
wrong
that
with it.
large.
It's just if we're going with core
Let me go grab the book.
D&D.
You guys are making me grab my dragon book. I have the
Question.
fucking official book.
How does magic actually work in D&D? Like, where does the magic even come from?
There's something called
It
the
depends on the
weave.
class.
Well, no, it all accesses something called the weave.
Okay. Have
Where-
Sweet.
a freaking book. I'm going to open it. I'm going to go to Ancient Dragons.
Is it the monsters manual though? Or is it something
No.
some other dragon thing?
It's-
See,
I'm sure there's at least one. That's
It's
like
one of the
not-
official
not
books that
all
does
of them.
focus on the dragons. It's called Fizban's Treasury of Dragons.
That's what I thought it was. Go to one. I love the Drake Warden. Shout out to the Rangers. Underappreciated class.
I love drakes. They're so
oh my gosh, yeah, people hate rangers for some reason. They're so much fun. Like archer rangers
Yeah,
are
like,
really
sure-
mid, but like any other kind of ranger
Yeah.
they're so much fun to play.
Long range Rangers are actually goated. I will stand by that. I played through the entirety of Tomb of Annihilation with a Ranger and survived the entire thing. I was the only one in the entire party to do so. It was kind of awesome.
I don't love
was a
ranged
good-
rangers, but like other
You just gotta
ranger,
know
some
how
of
to
the
do
other ranger type. It's just not my play style is the thing.
Right, exactly.
So I'm gonna
But some of
send
the
you
other
guys a
rangers
photo,
subclasses are really cool.
and you're going to understand how fucking big these things are. 'Cause these things are big.
But are they larger than a mountain?
Look at the photo and you tell me. Does that seem larger than a mountain to you?
I don't think it's in. Oh, there it is. Oh, I see the one in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that looks like art more than like official stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Okay. Doing a little searching. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So,
I'm gonna do some searching too because I
Ancient
know
dragons, as in like the ancient stat, like the stat block for ancient dragons, are just size gargantuan, which is like massive but not mountain sized.
yeah.
I would be surprised if the
Gargantuan
art
is
and like lore in the
anything
world says
past
that
a
some
certain
got
size.
bigger.
You know that, right?
Well, no, but like I
Uh,
searched up the certain specifics for the dragons.
Yeah, what I'm getting is that they're fully grown. They're about 85 feet long, with a wingspan of
Which is
40
huge.
to 72 feet, which is really fucking big. But that is not larger than a mountain.
Okay, did
But
you
I would be
just say
surprised if there's lore of like certain
dragons don't?
dragons that are larger.
Like, this is an official D&D book. It's not
I
an
don't know.
expansion. It's literally just, well, it's technically expansion. It's expanding more on the dragons, but it's an official book.
Right, but it's like that was an art. So it's like one of those things where it's not part of the official mechanics. It's just like, hey, here's a really big dragon, and we just thought that was cool, so we're gonna throw it in there. And maybe there's lore about bigger dragons that happen to exist.
And either way, you can't tell how big it actually is. So
Like, there are many, many photos of dragons bigger than mountains in this book.
Yeah. Well, the other
I don't
thing is
know.
that Isaac, I know you've read the Wings of Fire thing series.
Yeah.
Where it's just they keep growing as long as they
Mhm.
live. So I like to subscribe to that theory where it's just kind of dragons will just keep growing as long as they survive. So
In
theoretically,
Yeah.
D&D, they keep getting killed before that happens.
yeah, because all of a
Unless they're
sudden you have
very
dragons that
good
are
at staying away from humans. Yes.
either
I wouldn't be
way,
surprised if dragons like
But
disguise
in
themselves.
D&D, it is
mountains or
confirmed
whatever.
that there are dragons that are bigger than mountains. That they exist.
yes,
either way, the dragons probably would stay hidden longer than like some goblin that appears in some guy's basement.
Yeah,
That
honestly.
is true. Oh my god, basements would all become goblin dens and kobold dens. for
all of a sudden you have a dozen people with basement goblins.
There's gonna be a whole
People
new
wouldn't-
brand of
people wouldn't think anything
exterminators.
of it.
Goblin exterminators.
And they got
kobold.
basement goblins again.
But also, you gotta
Bro,
consider
those damn
there's
basement
also gonna be
goblins.
goblin races and kobold races as people. So
Yeah.
Also, I just realized something.
it's probably
So in
different if you fair or
D&D,
not, though.
there is gun stats that does whatever damage.
Yeah.
Yo,
But that's to keep things balanced. Realistically, guns do a lot more damage.
Yes.
Yes.
so
So
it doesn't suddenly be like nerfed.
no, I don't
But-
think they're- I
I don't
imagine
think
that
it'd be
they
nerfed, but I do feel like it's hard for them to pierce through a lot of different things. For instance, dragon
Guns?
scales.
Cameron,
Yes,
guns
a
are designed
normal
to
gun.
pierce through things.
Yes, but do you think it can pierce through dragon scale?
If you can get a sword to go through dragon scales, you can
Yes.
100% get a gun to go through dragon scales.
I mean, maybe if you like magically.
You do
enchant the
realize
bullet.
those swords usually have special abilities that lets you cleave through armor, yes?
Yes, but so do
It
guns.
depends if the dragon has like immunity to damage. Piercing.
Yeah, that is a good point. Mechanically,
I-
at least, yeah.
I don't know how resistances and immunities would work against a nuke.
Resistances and
Immunity to
Fire
radiant
immunity,
immunity
so-
to radiant damage is just immunity to nukes.
Pretty much,
Yeah,
honestly.
But
that might
nukes
be more
aren't just
force
radiant. They
damage,
do
honestly.
fire. They also do like
And poison.
force, basically.
Like,
I don't think any D&D thing could survive a nuke, unless I don't know of something.
resistances
maybe a god.
and immunities.
Yeah, but I don't think resistance and immunities should do anything against a nuke.
So yeah, that
Realistically,
becomes like an
I
issue
mean,
of like what
if you're
happens when you
immune
bring
to
real life
force,
things
fire,
into
and poison
D&D.
damage, you can resist a nuke.
yeah, but I think
Robots,
we're
you
doing, like,
resist a nuke.
mechanics and stats, though, right?
Cosmo.
They might be immune to like fire normally, but a nuke is different.
Mhm.
Did
Yeah.
you not hear what I just said?
A nuke is just the sun.
Okay, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's where it starts to get like tricky with the where are we defining the line of like, yeah, we're bringing D&D things into the real world, so spells and all that kind of stuff have effect, but like mechanically, where does the line draw between mechanics and world building kind of stuff? So, like,
Yeah.
nukes,
Yeah.
theoretically, if you brought nukes into D&D, it would be balanced and there would be things that were happening. But if you're bringing spells and stuff into the real world, how are nukes affected? Like, does the real world start to fit under those mechanics just to fit the world building? Because at that point, I would argue, yeah, there's certain things that could resist nukes, but then it's like it's pushing the line. It's
But
hard
also,
to.
like, think about how inefficient nukes will become.
When you can just
Over-
wish
I
feel
something
like
away or power word
like-
kill something, yeah.
Yeah,
Suddenly
like,
or meteor storm.
nukes are
like-
kind of useless. They're obsolete, not
They're
useless.
not useless,
obsolete.
but there are other things that would all of a sudden work better.
Also, like,
Would-
big enough dragon could just grab the nuke out of air and just, like, you know.
The nuke would still go off, Cameron. Nukes
Yes,
don't hit the
yeah.
ground and explode. They explode in the air.
really.
Yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
explode.
To be
It's
fair,
actually
I don't
cool.
look up nuke functions mainly because I'm an animal researcher in major. So,
History
Yeah, that's
nerds
what I
over
mean.
here. We definitely looked up how nukes work.
yeah,
There's,
you've made a whole Sonic gun blueprint. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure nukes like there's like some physics thing that if they don't quite touch the ground, it makes like a weird thing. It does something.
I'm pretty sure it's just that they can reach further if they explode above the ground. A couple
Yeah.
100 feet above the ground.
Mhm.
I think the air like compresses in a certain way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a new
You also
college.
got concerned that the government might panic and just use nukes on like all these monsters the minute they discover them.
Yeah, well, the second that you get a Tarrasque raging at a random city,
Yeah.
That's
They're-
a rare world-ending event. You know that, right?
yes, but at least one has to spawn in. There's no way that all of this
Yes, but
other
it
stuff
probably won't
comes in.
spawn in on
It would
our
spawn in
planet
another
to
dimension.
start.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Was that I think that like with my theory of how it would work, the other planes would suddenly exist, but again, we would not discover them until we have already discovered magic and the ability
Yeah.
to transport back and forth between them. And
And
I
there
think
are
Yeah.
like natural gates in between realms though too, like natural gates to the nine hells, natural gates to the astral sea, stuff like that.
yes, but it would
Maybe
still
those
take a
are
while for
those are
us to
confusing.
discover them and then go
Yeah.
and use them.
But I still think, to be fair, at most a month and a half maybe we could be hidden from this shit, but do you know how many
Yeah, I would say
people throw random hand signs every day or just like try casting a spell just for fun?
Well, also
I would
Would
say
that
sorcerers have an
hardly work?
No
innate
one actually
connection to
knows
the
how to cast
weave.
spells.
Sorcerers have innate connections to the weave, so they just
Oh,
kind
I
of
see,
have
never
the
mind.
ability to throw magic. So
Mhm.
Yeah, I
like
guess.
I feel like it would
sorcerers would
probably
be
go
where
back
it
to
would
monks.
start.
They do it.
Sorcerers and bards would be where it would start because you'd have people playing musical instruments and all of a sudden
Or
somebody next to them falls asleep. And
you
that
forget
Taylor
happens a
monks.
Swift
couple of
concert, like
times.
just half the
You
concert
forget
goes
monks,
crazy,
Liam.
and no one notices because it's Taylor Swift, so they just chalk it up to being weird. And then like months later, they're like, "Oh wait, that was magic."
Um,
Yeah, Taylor
yeah, I
Swift.
definitely feel like bards would probably be the first real, but a close second I feel like actually would be monks.
Monks don't have access to magic though.
They have
Monks
ki.
just punch good.
Yeah, they've got key points, but they don't have access
You
to
remember
actual
what
to
some
true
of the
magic.
monks can do, right? They can throw key attacks. They can
Yes.
become Goku.
But like, how many people are actually going to try and attack people and
Yeah,
then find out that they can punch things really well? You know,
Karate
like
tournament.
actually, actual monks are pretty peaceful, right?
Like imagine being a barbarian or a
Depends
monk
on the
at a
monk.
karate tournament and actually sending your opponent into the wall across the
I suppose
stadium.
barbarians
something.
would absolutely be
Would
the last to
barbarians
know because they
actually?
just think they were doing the human thing. I mean, we basically have that already with how humans can kind of just like pop off with their
Yeah,
like
I mean
adrenaline.
there are people who monks already basically exist. Like there
Mhm.
are people who can do crazy things through meditating and almost unlocking like extra abilities like in the real world. That is something
I
that
just
actually
realized
happens.
something we were
That's
so
what
dumb.
It's
monks
not
in
like
the real
cheating.
world are.
I just realized something. We're
But
also
it's not.
dumb. Clerics, paladins, they would
Cleric?
literally speak to their god.
Oh yeah.
They would probably
I
be
don't.
the
Would
first
gods
ones.
appear immediately, or would people have to become gods? Because that's how it works in D&D, right? Just people got really powerful to become gods.
No, there's literal gods. There's a whole pantheon. There's several pantheons in D&D.
I don't know how D&D gods work, so
Yeah, I don't either.
There's several pantheons. It's actually
Especially
quite
because like
similar
so
to
much of
our
those are
gods,
homebrew
and they
stuff.
have a lot of our gods. They have the Norse ones, and you can homebrew your own one. So, literally, people praying would suddenly actually communicate with the gods, or just suddenly cast some kind of healing spell by accident, and bam,
See,
Yeah.
clerics,
so I think that the thing
paladins.
here about like figuring out the difference is that first of all, there's people have like a weirdly high amount of like strange tolerance where people just like start doing weird things and they wouldn't think anything of it, or they just be like, "Oh yeah, Florida man did this," and everyone would just accept it, you know.
That is
And
Or
then
true.
like,
suddenly, a
Florida man
miracle
did
of someone
this.
being healed is
you'd
kind of
start seeing a
different.
lot more Florida man articles, and no one would bat an eye. But then there's also just the things where they would happen, and they're like we said, barbarians, monks, clerics, paladins. They start doing the stuff, and no one actually thinks anything of it because it's stuff that already kind of happens. It's just now there's a different context for it. So I feel like
Yeah.
it would be sorcerers or wizards, people who like read books and suddenly can cast Wingardium Leviosa. You know, like that kind of idea of the things that are not normal levels of weird
Uh-huh.
that would start to
Or like a
happen
bard
and start to
insulting
catch
someone and they
on.
just collapse dead.
Yeah, that's what I was saying was that bards and sorcerers would be the two that would kind of be like, "Oh,
Exactly.
all of a sudden everything is kind of
Somewhat
changing."
of.
And from there people would kind of learn wizardry because wizardry would almost need to extend out of
Mhm.
those other magics. But I do think that sorcery, just people suddenly having the ability to innately cast spells, and bards who, again, you sing a song and all of a sudden somebody next to you keels over dead.
Or like
Like,
someone suddenly.
They're the easiest to activate and the most likely to be noticed.
yeah.
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 Just imagine having a roasting battle and just suddenly the other opponent collapses dead.
It would.
Yeah, exactly.
It would. It would be like It would
Goofy ass looking
be.
shoes.
So now, what would reveal it to us first, the monsters or the people?
I think people.
Monsters, I feel like, is what would clue in.
Yeah,
it
especially
depends.
because you
Let's
gotta
see.
consider, especially the ocean, some rise of many monsters,
Takes.
such as we forgot about this one, the dragon turtle.
I have one question actually.
Shoot.
Would sorcerers only start being created after the event, or would just random people get it?
No,
Random people.
yeah, I would imagine that it would be random people or
Like,
people who have
If we
connections.
go with the character creation thing, random people.
Yeah. It's not random. They all have some form of connection to something, and I would say that
Oh.
that would probably extend into like
Hmm.
the real world. I don't know what kind of connections it would be that would cause magic to exist, but like draconic sorcerers, those people are people who have connections to dragons. Like wild
Yeah,
magic
that's what I'm
sorcerers, they
saying.
have connections to wild magic. I feel like wild magic is the one that's kind of random, and so I think that the wild magic sorcerers would be the first ones to appear. Would
Yeah.
be those people who are just doing something and suddenly somebody next to them grows a flower out of their head.
Or like, what would be funny is like a druid suddenly accidentally shapeshifts.
Yeah, the first
be
druid who
terrifying.
discovers
The
that they
poor
can
person.
shapeshift and they just
I
suddenly
think druids have to
turn into
learn that
something
though,
else.
so I don't.
No, I think it's comes. Oh wait, no, it is a second level thing.
They have to level up and then randomly just turn into a squirrel.
But also,
Accidentally.
suddenly
What
learning
the
a
fuck
new
is happening?
language. But first level, they do learn Druidic, so suddenly learning and understanding a new language, like suddenly understanding words that no one
we're
could
not going,
understand before, is kind of.
I don't
random.
think we should go like full mechanics because like you'd literally have to learn that. Like you'd have to go and learn the language to actually
Yeah,
learn a
because
language.
the reason that characters like that characters have extra languages is because they know them from their backstory, which is a whole nother thing
Wait,
to
what
take
happens
into
with
account is that we
multi-classing, though?
wouldn't, at least like the first wave of people when it first happens, would not have backstory in this world, so it would kind of they would function a little bit differently and have just because they don't a lot of what you know and and what you can use at first level comes from your backstory.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you just say, Isaac? I know what you said, but
There's the
wow.
multi-classing. Like
So
when someone
in the D&D books, you have a requirement of a certain stat to become that class.
right.
But I think in the real world, it'd be more like you have to learn it from someone else who's already that class, who's high enough
Yeah.
level in
Makes
that class
sense.
to teach you.
Yeah. Like I mean, if you wanted to be a barbarian, you'd still need to have a required stat. I think. I don't know.
You
It
just
depends.
gotta be angry enough.
Gotta
You
be
gotta be
angry
angry
enough. That one bro who's so angry, he just suddenly becomes
And,
stronger.
like became a sorcerer and was like, no, that's not what I wanted. So he just becomes angry and unlocks.
Becomes resistant to every bunch and whatever.
Becomes resistant to all the damages. Or all the basic
It takes like
damages.
it's suddenly it starts it like takes like knives become so much less effective.
I know, suddenly you've got knives bouncing off of his skin, he's so angry. Everybody becomes confused.
You're like injured beyond compare, but you can still function normally.
Yeah. I feel like that's more of what that's trying to simulate. The resistance is like, because you also need to take into account like mechanical stuff, like what it's trying to simulate. Because it's what it's really simulating is that they can brush off damage more easily when they're like
Yeah.
that. Not necessarily that they literally don't take the damage, but like it doesn't hurt them to their core the same way because they're not paying attention to it or they're brushing it off.
Actually, now
I
that I
would
think of
like to
it,
say Barbarian's Rage isn't always rage. While the ability is called rage, it does state that it can be other emotions.
Yeah.
I have played. Well, I've come up with a concept for and also played two different types of rage. I've come up with a concept for a depressed rage
Yeah, I was gonna say like a
and
morning
a
rage would be
happy
really cool to
rage.
play. A morning rage would be
It's
really
kind of
cool
like
to play.
this is a stupid reference, but Green Lantern, the lantern rings, the different colors for them, it's kind of like that.
How would injuries work? Because in D&D you don't get injured per se.
I mean, you do.
I think
But like
that
not
Yeah.
in the same way.
I
You
think
can't
we're
get you can't get a broken leg and typically you don't get a broken leg in D&D or a broken arm.
Well, you're gonna. Like, healing potions can fix that, though, and so can regeneration potions.
so can
Sleep.
Yeah,
sleeping.
but I'm just saying in D&D when you're at 1 health, you can do the same thing as if you were at full health.
Yeah.
Unless
That's
there's like
called
specific status
adrenaline.
conditions.
So it would
Adrenaline.
probably be different.
No, Cameron does have a good point. Yeah, because adrenaline would kick in at that point, so you would actually be stronger than if you were not.
I
That
guess,
is.
but
We all have a little barbarian in us.
Yeah, that's one of those things
I
that's
have
like
a
hard
picture
to
in my
do
head of
without
We
a
all
getting
like
into
the
the
literally.
rage,
mechanics.
motherfucker. We all like. Wait, I can't sing that. We'd get copyrighted. Shit.
I don't care about
Yeah.
copyright claims. This isn't making money anyway. Not yet, at least. Maybe
We all
someday.
like the rage, motherfucker. We all like the rage. That's from Vox Machina, if no one can tell. I can love that show. But yeah, definitely D&D in the real world would be so interesting.
Really would be.
I think it'd be a lot of fun, honestly, after like all the destructiveness is over.
It would not be fun for us, but it would be fun for future generations. Theoretically,
Yes.
maybe, perchance.
Like, for the first people affected, it wouldn't be as fun because of all the destruction and death and all that. But for future generations, you literally get to have your own adventure.
I feel
Of
like
course,
Spice up life a
if
little.
I had to choose between D&D adventure and Pokemon adventure for a real life sudden change, I'd probably pick Pokemon so I could survive.
yeah, I feel the same way.
Pokemon would
Like,
be safer for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I love D&D and all the things you do. But at least you'd survive it, most likely in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Unless
One
you
of the
meet
best
like a
parts of
Mafia
D&D
or a
is
God
how it's
If,
not
Pokemon, they
if
real.
all
everything
dead.
stays to Pokemon, then you wouldn't have Pokeballs immediately. We'd have to figure that out.
Yeah.
That
But
is a good
also, I'd
point.
like to say, the
We could
amount,
still have
if
little
the world
friends,
became
though.
Pokemon, the amount of children that suddenly die or get kidnapped by Pokemon is ridiculous.
That is true. There are an
Ooh,
obscene
Pokemon
number of
entries.
Pokemon that just murder children for no reason.
A lot of ghost type Pokemon, especially
Yeah,
the
that just take away.
Drifloon, Fan Stump, the Ghost Tree.
Yeah, there are a surprising
Not
number
to
of
mention, we'd
Pokemon that
have the crisis
they're.
of having Pokemon gods and coming to us,
Yeah, I feel like that.
like Giratina.
Yeah, well, Giratina isn't Giratina like locked in a different dimension, and then it's like one of the games
Something
where
like
Yeah, but
that.
somebody
you could
lets
get.
them out.
There's a portal that if it breaks, you'll be released into our world.
Yeah, but he
But
at least
also,
he
we have
starts
things
Pokemon
like
off
looking
like
at
Darkrai,
Pokeballs.
we do have things like
Necromoza,
Darkrai, Necrozma. Yeah,
What?
and I feel like there's another that's really evil.
probably.
I think it's part of the
How would that
extra line.
revolutionize travel?
That's the right guy from X.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Oh yeah, Yveltal.
Well, until like you
Yveltal.
have animal rights activists popping in.
Well,
Yeah.
Like, let's be
the
real.
worst thing is though, would we keep our normal animals or would everything become Pokemon?
It's a good question.
Because then we'd have to live like people do in the Pokemon world, which, if you don't know, they eat Pokemon.
I feel
some
like
of the
if it
Pokemon
just
look
popped into
especially
the world,
tasty.
we would keep our
Oh
animals
god, we have fucking
until they got
Guzzlord. I
beaten
do
out.
not want to deal with him. No.
Guzzlord is an Ultra Beast, though, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's from a
I have
different
to-
dimension, and like same situation as Giratina, needs to be let into our world.
There's some Pokemon that are just like instant death if you look at them wrong too. Like there's one Pokemon, if you look at the crack on its back, your soul is sucked away.
Yeah, Shedinja.
Great.
Yeah. And he stands with his back to you while he's fighting. And it's just like, don't look at your Pokemon.
Mhm. Honestly, one of my favorite Pokemon because it's so adorable, but also it drains your life essence apparently to burn as fuel is Litwick. It it targets people who are lost and afraid, and acts as a light for them while taking their life force.
Great.
Yeah, some
But
Pokemon, some of the
if you
Pokemon
tame
are
them
really
as a
twisted.
Pokemon, they don't really use life force. So.
Griever the ghost dog from Scarlet and Violet has a similar thing.
And
He's just a good boy and wants to play with you, but like drains your soul.
the amount of reality bending Pokemon there are is kind of ridiculous.
The amount of
I mean, everything's
you could
reality.
say that about any kind of anything similar, like dangerous, like that about Pokemon, and you'll find an absurd number of Pokemon that are just like, oh, they can end your life like that.
So why not?
So, are you ready to rethink your decision about D&D versus?
Honestly, no. Still, Pokemon is safer.
It is significant.
I don't know about that.
I can't imagine it would be significantly safer. You don't. The thing is, that you don't see nearly as much death in Pokemon as you do in D&D.
It's
how
like
much-
in the games of D&D,
D and
there's so
D,
much death.
dying is normal. It's expected.
I guess.
Yeah.
Backup
In
characters
Pokemon-
exist for a reason.
Yeah, but in D&D, you're usually playing as the adventurers, not the NPCs.
It's real.
You know how many
All the
NPCs
NPCs.
die all the time?
I was gonna
dude?
say, have you
Oh.
not had
Yeah, but that's also
ran
because it's
favorite
medieval
NPC
time.
murdered for no
This is
reason?
modern.
No. Even in modern D, I played a modern D&D campaign. The amount of people that die in that is ridiculous because of
Oh.
all the monsters.
I feel like it's also really biased to say that more people die in D&D, just because D&D, the structure of the game is built that way. Like, it's supposed to create tension in that way. Well,
Yeah,
like the
like
Pokemon
as
stuff
the
is
DM to make a good story.
the DM needs to make a good story, so they need to kill off characters and NPCs to move the story forward. Well, Pokemon is literally designed for, I don't want to say children,
Knocked
but
out.
for a younger generation or for younger people for the most part. So it kind of doesn't really have permission almost to show stuff like that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure
but
The
it
stuff
other
like that
thing,
happens
has
all
So
usually
of
you
the
do
don't see
time.
the darker side of Pokemon, which I've read up on that, and it's actually kind of fucked up. Because you gotta
Yeah.
consider all those villains are really fucked up, especially Team Rocket. People joke about Team Rocket all the time. That organization is fucking mental.
the other thing is like
You
most
met,
of the time in
mate.
Pokemon, the people like have the rules figured out. Like that's why we see civilization working because you have
Mhm.
Pokedex, you have all these things. People have established and figured out rules. Like we see in Pokemon Legends Arceus, how the whole thing like started off. Pokemon were freaking trying to kill people, and we see that happen, and they had like this whole process. So if
But
you
also you
if
gotta
Pokemon
realize
just entered
that
the real
we do
world,
have previous
it'd be
knowledge.
chaos at first. But I feel like eventually it's a similar thing where eventually you'd start to figure it out, get a system. So I feel like in the
Yeah.
long run, Pokemon would be better because after you had rules established and everything, it would be a lot more controllable.
And also, we do have previous knowledge of these things, but our knowledge about Pokemon, I feel like, is much better.
Because they're animals.
Because,
Like in the end of the day, they're just yeah.
in D&D, like, we don't know how some of these things actually function technically. Like, we don't know how they're built to work. Sometimes they say they just
Changes the
happen, or
rules of
like,
the world a
it
lot more.
says
Yeah.
somatic components or verbal components. We don't know what they need to say or do, though.
Yeah.
So, realistically, Pokemon, we adjust to much quicker. Ugh,
Yes, quicker. Much quicker.
piss off. We adjust much quicker to it, and honestly, it'd be a lot safer, especially in the long run.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, who couldn't resist having a cute little Pokemon?
Exactly.
Ugh. We should talk about Pokemon one of our episodes. That'd be fun.
We just
Well,
did.
I was gonna
We
say
just
we just did, and
Like-
we've done it before.
A full episode though.
Yeah, we
just
should-
Pokemon.
I do think that
Oh,
I think it would be an interesting episode to kind of like. I have a couple of episode ideas where it would involve more research. Like if you look back at the brainstorming for topics, some of my stuff is like a little more research heavy, but I think it would be fun to do if people are willing to put in the work. And I feel the same way about Pokemon. I think like bringing a number of Pokemon that are kind of like you find interesting or whatever would be kind of interesting.
Speaking of Pokemon, did you know that for Pokemon, this is one of my favorite little facts, the Lapras used to be like nearly extinct, but because of one trainer, like one person literally just breeding and releasing so many Lapras, Pokemon decided to change their Pokédex entry in the next game
Really
to, thanks to the efforts of one trainer, the
interesting.
Lapras is now plentiful. Which I am
I've
in
seen
love with
stuff about that. I hadn't heard anything about Pokemon actually like intentionally doing that.
Acknowledging it, yes.
We went from D&D to Pokemon.
Honestly,
That's not that
it's
far
not
of a
that
jump.
much of a stretch, honestly. It
Mm,
involves monsters. Because Pokemon literally stands for pocket monsters.
Yep.
If you didn't know.
We had a thread. There was a train of thought.
There was a train of
So yeah,
thought.
honestly, for once we didn't go that off topic.
I mean, I wouldn't say we didn't go off topic, but there was
We
good
did,
reason.
but we didn't go
There was a
as
logic behind the
extremely
off
off topic.
No,
It
we're
had
not
a line
in
of
a,
thought.
Gotta
we're
look
not
for
in
the
a
name.
different
It's-
dimension.
Exact.
we are kind of in a different dimension, but that's fine.
We are literally in a different dimension. I guess that's true. Sorry.
Technicalities.
Technicalities, fake memories.
I'm sorry. So we just started the podcast.
Yeah, what's the theme for today?
Oh god, not another bit. Not another podcast destroying bit.
This podcast was destroyed the moment you brought me on board. Let's be real.
It's not just a.
It's funny
podcast
because
that's
you're the
going
first
on,
person I brought on board.
It's the
Yeah.
Oh, I guess.
destroying them.
Oh, I should
The
designate our next
podcast was destroyed the
person.
moment you started the podcast. Like, let's be real. You knew what you were
Yes.
signing up for.
Just
I knew
kidding.
exactly what I was signing up for.
Who
I'm
was
so
our
glad
host
with
last
what it's
time?
doing.
It's been a while.
What did you say?
Who was our host last time? So I don't pick the same person.
I think I hosted last time.
Yeah, you did superpowers, right?
Yeah.
Isaac. Isaac.
Oh shoot!
You
I
are
had this
hosting.
feeling in the pit of my stomach that you were about to pick me, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I need a theme." And
You don't need, that's
I'll
kind
figure it out
of a
later.
that's kind of a bad habit that we've started is sharing the theme when we're picked. Like that wasn't my intention when I started off having the person picked for next week. Like
But also,
kind of
it's
do the
kind of fun
outro.
because we pick something random off the top of our heads.
I'm just saying that that's not the way that I choose to do it, but if you guys want to, go right ahead. I just feel like it puts a lot of
Nothing off
pressure
the
on
top of my
people.
head, so I say I'll take the week on this one.
Yeah.
We'll have a surprise theme next week.
But you are our host for next week. Good luck.
Huzzah.
I'm free.
All right, so that cues me to do the outro.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Let me clear my throat. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, and then you can just like cut the thing right there when I go silent.
Oh my god, dude! What the fuck?